You're listening to I Am Refocused podcast, and this is Brandon Watson. I'm going to drop a teaser of Got a Feeling, my latest single. Check it out.
What I found is nothing comes close to the way that you have loved me. This feeling you give me is pure and true. You made me brand new, so incredible. What I found is nothing comes close to the way that you have loved me. This feeling you give me is pure and true.
You are listening to Refocused Magazine Podcast with your host, Shamaya Reed. This podcast is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. Now let's tune in to today's podcast.
Hey guys, you are listening to I Am Refocused podcast, and we have a special guest today, y'all. We have the one and only Brandon Watson. Hey Brandon, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, what is up, Refocused? Y'all good?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Thanks for having me this morning. I'm excited to be here.
Man, so we're going to get right into this, man. Tell us, how did you get into the music industry? Tell us about that.
Well, I wish I could say that it happened overnight, but it didn't happen overnight. I've been in music my entire life. Grew up in church, grew up as a pastor's son in a small church in Bandera, Texas, which I don't know if y'all know where that's at. I can't say that. It's literally called Cowboy.
Street. I know the street.
It's an actual town. It's an actual town of like 900 people, and it's literally called Cowboy Capital of the World. And grew up out there in a small church and learned how to play every instrument because nobody else was there because it was a small church, and had this huge dream of becoming everything that the Lord wanted me to become in the music industry and in worship, and one thing led to another, and here we are. This is what we're doing. This is what I'm doing.
So tell us about your first song that you ever released. What was it, and what was the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, so I had a single drop called All This Time. And like I said, I grew up in ministry, in a ministry home, and there was a time in my life where I had to find God for myself, not through my family, not through my dad, but really have a relationship with God. And it's kind of interesting because if you look at the story of Judas Iscariot and the disciples, and proximity is not relationship. Knowing who Jesus is not having relationship with Jesus. And so I kind of had to figure that out. And I found myself on my bedroom floor crying out to the Lord and saying, God, have you seen anything that I've been going through? Have you seen anything that my family's been going through? And I had to deal with a lot of hurt in ministry from the church. And this song kind of birthed out of that. And literally, the song talks about, God, all this time you've been right here, all this time you found me, all this time you've seen everything that I've been going through. And even when I felt like no one knew, even God, God was right there, the entire time.
Wow. Now, when you first realized, hey, this can actually be something I can do for a living, when did you realize that, and what were some of the steps you had to take before you got to that next level?
Yeah, so I was 18. I had just graduated high school and did not know what I wanted to do with my life. Knew that I had a gift, knew that I had a calling, but did not know what my entry point was into the music industry. Because firsthand, it's kind of like it's who you know, and you just need one chance, you just need one yes. So there was a music internship actually out of San Antonio, out of Westover Hills Assembly of God, which is a pretty large church in town. And I hit up the worship pastor in the music department because they had a program for internship to learn studio production, learn how to work and manage in, you know, a music ministry of 500 people. So it was a massive program. And I did that for about 2.5 years and learned everything from front of house to, you know, AV, video, lighting, all of it. So I learned everything during that time period. And that was kind of my entry point to meeting a lot of other gospel artists that are doing this and touring, and they would come through, and I just built relationships with them, and got to play guitar for Martha Munizzi, BJ Putnam, Freddie Rodriguez, Lucia Parker. A lot of big names that came through, and just built, you know, relationship with their staff and their team, and just kind of being like, well, how'd y'all do it? How'd y'all get into it? And that's just kind of, it just led to, you know, one thing led to another, and, you know, that's just kind of how, that was my entry point, you know.
Now, can you share an experience, like the first time you hit the road? How was that? Were you nervous? Were you excited? How was that? Yeah,
you know, I did a couple of like one-offs, flight dates. Probably, I want to say like 2011 was when my traveling kind of started picking up. And those were just kind of within Texas. It was kind of like a local state thing, just off relationship, worship pastors that I knew, churches that I knew, you know, they would have me out for special things. But then when my single dropped, it actually started blowing up, which was super random, in the UK and Europe. So I did a international tour all through Ireland for about a month, and that was incredible to, you know, experience a whole new culture, experience a whole new group of people, and how their worship looks, how their church family looks, because it's completely different than the U.S. You know,
like what kind of difference though? Like what?
Just their expression. You know, they're just so passionate about the Lord.
They are.
And so open, so friendly, and you know, people like that grow up in the urban, you know, district kind of stuff. We don't open up our homes and say, hey, come and have coffee and soup in our house. Like, that's just their normal love language. Yeah. And I was just kind of like, okay, you want me to come to your house? You know, that's weird. We don't do that, you know. So that was a big, you know, eye-opening thing for me. That was about 4 years ago already. Then and after that, it was just kind of like, you know, things started blowing up in the U.S. and it was probably backwards, because I did the international thing before I did, you know, the U.S. thing.
Wow,
and
that's dope.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was totally God. You know, totally God.
Now, you have a management team, right?
I do. Yeah.
How did that process like start? Did you guys know each other, or did people seek you out and say, hey, we would like to manage you? How did that happen?
Yeah, so I have a management team within Brandon Watson Music staff. So I have an operations manager, and then I have a production manager, and then also have an intern, a couple of interns, and all those people handle the operations of what we do, booking, production. You name it, they do it. I would not be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for the team. They handle everything. So we had to launch that, and then we started getting some attention out in the industry from different management companies, and one of which, there's a good friend of mine. His name's DJ Dex, DJ Dex Productions, and he's a radio personality on Sirius XM on Kirk Franklin's Praise the Well. So he started really taking notice of my movement, my stuff, and he was like, hey man, we need to do something about this. So we started working together about a little over a year ago now. And that really boosted my movement, and he started working with me hand in hand, and kind of putting my product in the right hands, in the right places, and it's really
He was like
helped.
big bro to you. Like he was like
Completely. Yeah, completely.
Yeah, that's what we need, especially in your industry. That's what you need.
Yeah, and that's what I always say, especially new artists. They trying to figure out who they are, trying to figure out how you're gonna do this. You just need one yes. That's all I always say is you just need one yes.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get multiple no's, and that's fine. You just need to get used to the no's.
Yeah.
And speaking on no's, can you share how you got through those times where you were rejected, like you weren't getting what you were expecting or what you actually wanted? Can you share how you dealt with that?
Yeah, just keep it moving. That's literally our biggest saying within Brandon Watson Music is keep it moving. There's no drama. There's no if you get a no, you just say, okay, bless you guys, and you keep it moving. Because the thing is, your movement will speak for itself. The things that you do will speak for itself. Mm-hmm. And nobody can take away your hard work. Yeah. Nobody. And if you're putting your stuff out there, if you're putting your stuff out on social media, you're putting your stuff out on radio and doing this and doing that, and you're on these platforms and these stages, there's nobody that can say, oh no, you didn't do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's why you keep it moving, and one day you're gonna get a yes. One day you're gonna get a yes, and I've been blessed to get a few of those, and that's why I'm sitting with you guys now, and we still got a long road. There's still a long road ahead of us, of me, and but that's why we have God to rely on. So.
And someone like you who's been outside the States, I mean, it's still a young career. I mean, you're just warming up.
Right, yeah.
How do you keep yourself level-headed to where you're not getting too excited to where it's like, fame, but it's more of a just making sure you're still doing your craft and honoring your gift? How you keep that level, that balance?
Seeing a lot of other people not do that. You know what I mean? And there's not one particular person or name. It's just, seeing a culture of what the industry has looked like for so many years. And just like what we're saying is like, where's that entry point? How does someone get into it? All of these no's. Like, that's what I feel like is my job, to kind of be the bridge for those new people, to give them a yes, to give them an entry point. And because I know how hard it's been for me, so if I can be that for somebody else, that's what it's all about. It's building the kingdom of God, and more importantly, building someone's gifting and really pouring into them, practically and spiritually, and so that keeps me grounded, because this is bigger than me. It's bigger than Brandon Watson, and it's bigger than the music that I write or radio, or this is what the Great Commission's all about, and I'm just trying to put that into practice in a creative way.
Yeah, that's really cool, because like, I think the biggest thing in Christianity is relationships. Yeah. And it flows from Christ through us to have relationships. So for you to do that in the industry that gets really polluted.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great word. Yes, it does.
No, that's a nice way to start something to talk about. How do you deal with times when things get polluted?
Yeah. Man.
How do you deal with those times? Because we all have it. Like, no one's safe from that. Like, we all go through that.
Absolutely.
So how do you personally try to keep yourself, no pun intended, focused? How you keep yourself from not losing your focus? In those times.
Refocus.
Refocus.
Name drop.
Right there.
I am refocused.
I am refocused. That's just how I do it, bro. No, I mean, on the real, how I refocus, and realign what it's all about is going back to the basics, you know, and it's not a, like, I need to do this once a month. No, it's a daily thing. Like, you literally, I mean, for me, I'm like, okay, I gotta shut out the world for a second. I gotta shut out my phone. I gotta shut out emails and this and that, and just say, okay, God, you know, what do you want to say to me right now? What do you want to do this week? What do you want to do in all of these bookings, all these dates? What do you want to say for this church? What do you want to say for this time, for this radio interview? You know, that's always my prayer. My prayer before I go out on every stage is, Lord, if you do not meet me out on this platform, let me have nothing to do with this. Because I don't want to go and waste my time or waste someone else's time. Yeah. I need to be different. And if I'm not praying, and that's just for me, I feel like the Lord has challenged me with that. And if I'm not doing that, then I feel like I'm not giving God my all. I'm not giving God my best. Mm-hmm. And that's just how I kind of realign, refocus, and restructure my mindset, my heart, you know, all of it.
Mm-hmm. So is that kind of like how you write your songs too, or is that like...
Yeah, I mean, it's so funny because I just had a writing session Tuesday night, because I'm trying to knock out this EP. So I did just release a new song. It's called Got a Feelin, and that releases past March everywhere, which I'm sure we'll talk about that later. So I actually had a co-write for that. And I love co-writing with people because their whole perspective on an idea or, you know, a song melody or whatever, it's always so cool to see someone else's perspective on my idea. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So for when I write, it really depends. I have like notebooks and notepads scattered everywhere, and I'll start writing a song and feeling like, man, this is going to be the song. And then I'll write one verse and one chorus, or sometimes it's a bridge and a chorus, and then have no verses, and I'm like, here we go again. And then like 2 months later, I'll sit down, I'll have another song idea, and then I'll be playing it, and then I'll have a verse, and I'll be like, you know what, I wrote a chorus like 2 months ago, and I'll go back through it, and that chorus fits for that song, and then I'm pretty much done with that song. Mm-hmm. So, you know, that's just kind of how it works for me when I write a song. There's no like genius idea. It doesn't like just come out, like it just comes out randomly for me. And I just will, you know, I could be on a plane, which I just wrote another song. I flew out to LA for Harvest Fest like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and I was on the plane, the flight, and a song just randomly came to me, and I just started writing it, and you know, some stuff like that. It just kind of just will come in random places, and I just know to be ready, you know, and have a notepad or have my phone and be like, oh, I need to put this in right now, or I'll forget, because I'm super ADD and I'll just forget. So
there's nothing wrong with that, man. I mean, so all right, just for someone who might be aspiring to be a singer, yeah, what's some tips you can give to people who would like to get on your level where they get to travel and make this a living? Because, you know, some people who want to be a singer may not understand all the work that's going to be required.
Yeah.
So how would you encourage someone to break the ice, so to speak, to get on that level, to position themselves to be successful?
Yeah, I mean, you know, as I would say a professional singer, or even, you know, a professional spoken word, you know, anything where you are a preacher, anything where you are using your voice as your instrument, you have to take care of your voice. And I'm probably the worst person to talk to about this. And I actually have a vocal coach who's very, very well known in the industry, and she actually is out of Atlanta, Georgia. And I mean, she's worked with, you know, everybody who's anybody in the industry, and it's hilarious because she'll randomly FaceTime me on the road, and she'll to check on me just to hear me talk, because if I sound hoarse or raspy, or if I sound like I've had too much coffee, which I don't know how she knows that, she'll be like, "You had 2 cups of coffee today, didn't you?" I'm like, "Yeah, how'd you know?"
It's in your hand.
Shout out to coffee. I love coffee.
I do too, and that's the biggest problem for me. I would say, anybody that's wanting to be a professional artist, you need to take care of your voice. You need to make sure that you're drinking water, you're drinking hot tea, you're doing all the things that you need to do to maintain vocal health, especially if you're singing every single night, because vocal fatigue is like the worst to deal with. And I have a natural raspy type of singing voice, so I really, really get vocal fatigue pretty quick. And I had to learn how to work with that, and having a vocal coach and getting a vocal coach, that is the most important thing, especially if you start touring. You have to have a vocal coach in your life that's keeping you accountable, because otherwise you just gonna fall off the bandwagon real quick. Or someone's gonna kick you off, and that someone's gonna be you. So yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. You need to have someone keeping you accountable to keep you healthy.
What about food? When you're on the road, do you have to eat healthier, or does it matter? How's that work?
I don't want to talk about that. No.
Too much tacos?
Too much tacos, man. No, I actually... I've been training, this is going to be hilarious. No one knows this at all, but I've been training MMA for 3.5 years.
Whoa.
That's a little side thing.
Plan B.
Yeah. So I'll start going through like 3 months of eating super clean, even while I'm on the road. So I try to eat like real clean, and then I'll take a month and I'll just do whatever I want, just because I have to. And if I feel like I'm in a box, I'll scream and freak out. So I'll take about a month and do whatever I want. This last go around over the summer, I fell off the wagon hard. So like June and July, I did 6 summer camps, and I had I think two of the last weeks of July. Oh no, 2 of the last weeks of July and the first 2 weeks of August, I was completely gone. So I was gone the entire summer, except for like a couple days here and there. I came back home, but while I was on the road, I ate whatever I wanted, and it was really bad. And now I'm back on it again. So
since we talking about food, just real quick, what's your favorite food to eat?
My favorite Chipotle. Yeah, that's actually my favorite food. Chipotle. It's made me sick. I don't know how many times, but
they stay in the news.
I've been right there in the headline of it. So, and they're like, "Well, you can get a free meal." I'm like, "No, I don't want a free meal." Like, you just put me up in the bed for 2 days.
Really, you got sick?
Yeah, for real. Chipotle. Got me sick. Yeah, while I was traveling too.
It's fake news.
No, it was real. It was definitely real.
It was real. And you still go?
I still go. I just don't go to that location anymore.
Yeah, that's commitment.
But that location I think it was in, that was in Oklahoma.
It wasn't Texas.
So, nah, it wasn't
Texas. Don't do that.
No, Texas won't make you. Nah, Texas won't get you sick.
Yeah. Well, if you tuning in, this is I Am Refocused podcast. I want to give a big shout out to Rockafellas Rico Rodriguez. Ever need a haircut? Make sure you go 1733 Babcock Road. And we're with the one and only Brandon Watson.
Yo.
And Sam.
What's up,
Big shout out to Sam. And Deborah. Yeah.
What's up, Deborah?
What's up?
So back on this management type thing.
Yeah.
How you guys, and if you have ladies, how you guys and ladies like stay friendly on the road? Because I know sometimes when you're living temporarily with each other, things can get kind of...
Start barking at each other.
Yeah. Well... we don't. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Don't kill me. No, so my road manager, who's my operations manager, I've known him for over 10 years. he actually is at Westover Hills Assemblies of God. That's where I met him. I met him during my internship. I met him through the beginning of all of it, and he always said, whenever you make it, like, it was funny because it was like he knew before I knew like what was going to even happen, and he was like, whenever you make it, I want to be a road manager. And I'm like, and it was kind of a joke, and I still remember the call, and I called him up, and it was probably like 11:30 at night, and I was like, hey, you remember that one time when you said that? And he was like, yeah. I'm like, oh, well, I'm asking you now. And he was like, wait, really, what? And I was like, yeah, man, so we've been good friends for several years, which helps because he knows a lot of my likes and dislikes already, which is, that's huge, especially if you're handling bookings, you're handling all the travel itinerary and all of that stuff. I don't ever have to worry about if I'm going to be taken care of or protected, because there's some crazy people out there. And he also is my personal bodyguard also, and he's a big dude, so
don't have me do it.
You sure you don't want to do it? You sure?
Too skinny.
You actually met him at that event.
Oh yeah, not too long ago, last month or something.
Yeah, he was there. So he's a big dude, and he makes sure everything's, he don't play, he makes sure everything's running smoothly, and he makes sure we're running in excellence, which is what I'm about, and it's good to have someone that's known you for a while, especially if they're going to be flying with you in hotels and all over the place.
You still here?
Yeah, I'm like, go home already. And then and the rest of the crew, they're newer people. And when I say newer, I mean I've known them probably a little over a year. So I mean they're not like, I just met them outside and hey, you want to work for me? No, I mean we go through a whole like interviewing process, and and it's cool because Matt, who's my road manager, will interview these people and kind of see where they're at with industry knowledge and church knowledge, all of it, and then if he's like, I think we need to go this direction, then I'll have an interview with them and say, okay, this is kind of what you're gonna do, what we need, and we'll go from there. And it's worked out, man. Now I've had to let some people go, just because of life and different things. But it's no hard feelings or anything.
Sometimes you gotta cut,
I mean, it's a crazy lifestyle. It's a crazy
refocus moment.
Yeah, I am refocused.
Yeah.
It's a crazy lifestyle, and you have to be sure you want to do it, and be sure that God has called you to do it for one, the biggest reason of it all, because, it'll take you out if you're not careful.
You're right.
So
you gotta keep it lean, because if you ain't careful,
you'll get polluted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll get polluted.
A lot of dead weight.
Hashtag it.
So when it comes to when you're performing, especially like when you're performing out of state, what's some of can you share a moment that you might have had with a fan afterwards? Because like, how people come up to you and like, man, I've been listening to you since like kindergarten. How are those moments when you get to interact with fans?
Dude,
or should I say listeners?
It's so crazy because, believe it or not, a lot of the music, my music right now, is blown up over on the East Coast. So when I fly out of there, it's weird because in Texas, I mean, it just like Dallas and Houston, I would say they know more of my music than San Antonio, which is weird, but that's just
happened to Jesus too. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's because I do a lot of stuff locally too, and I try to do a lot of stuff locally. It's getting harder now because of all of the out-of-state stuff, but I'm still trying to do local stuff. But I remember this one time that I was actually at Praise in the Park this past July for Praise 102.5, and was out there, had a merch table, and I was on the stage. They had an intermission. I came around to the merch table. I had my banner there. I was behind the banner getting something out of my suitcase, and I heard this lady like saying she wishes that I was there and she wanted to meet me. And so I popped around the banner, and she almost died. She was like, oh my goodness, you're right here. And then and this is the best part. She was like, you are so handsome. You are so handsome.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember that because it happened 3 times while I was out there. I was like, wow, man. Okay, Atlanta, I see you. So, things like that. It's just, it keeps things, lighthearted.
Yeah.
And I think the biggest one was this kid that told me after camp that I just did. He came up to me and he was just like, hey, I just want you to know that you inspired me to be a better worshiper. Now that is huge. That's more than like, oh, your song touched me. If I can inspire someone to be a better worshiper, that's what it's about, because that's where your relationship is with Jesus, is in your worship, is in that time. And if someone can be inspired to be a better worshiper, that's like saying, man, you inspired me to be a better man. That's huge. So, there's so many stories that I could go down the list.
But we have a question from one of the listeners here out of the barber shop.
Okay, cool.
There you go.
Okay, and they're asking, and I believe this came from Rico himself, Rockafellas Barber Shop, and he's asking on the spiritual connection part, when you sang to the Lord, how does your voice bring that love to those who are listening? And you kind of just touched on a little bit of it.
Wow, that's a great question. This is what I've gotten a lot in my life, and I believe it works for this question. A lot of people that always come up to me or post and comment, they always say, you have such a pure voice, you have such a pure genuine attitude, and I believe that is, that's what I want to be shown. As soon as I get on a stage, when I grab a mic, when I talk and I just say, Lord, come invade us, come, I want that transparency of who I am and the transparency in my worship to transfer over to whoever's watching, whoever's a part of that time, and feel the love of God through, not just practically my voice, but my worship, because for God so loved the world that he gave his only son. It started with love. It started with love, and that's our biggest thing right now. And that's what I'm trying to do in my music, is portray the love of God in a different way, and that's just, I feel like the challenge that the Lord has given me right now is to kind of portray the love, because that's where everything's gonna get fixed. There's a lot of craziness going on right now. A lot of craziness.
And how do you deal with that, with all the craziness outside your circle? How do you keep your mind on Christ? Because it's so easy to get tempted to get swung to the left and the right. How do you keep them in the center? Especially in Texas, we just went through a huge natural disaster with, Hurricane Harvey. And, seeing, because I was here that weekend. I thank God I was not gone. I could see, feel the panic of even San Antonio, which we were nowhere near the storm. The storm wave was going to hit us, but it's nothing like, the coastal region or Houston. I have a lot of friends and relationships out in Houston, and I was busy calling them and texting them, making sure they were good and they were straight. And the Lord dropped in my heart during that time is that God is the everlasting God, and if we remain in Him and trust in Him, He's going to take care of it. And there's a song that was written. I think William Murphy actually released a cover of it, and it's called Everlasting God. And I was just listening to it
through that whole weekend, and just like, oh man, God, you know, this is terrible, this is horrible, but you are you're still sovereign, you're still Lord, and we still have to give you honor and glory through the storm, because after the storm, what happens? The sun comes out, you know. So just because a storm is crazy and it's going to leave some residue everywhere, it doesn't mean that God's not God. It doesn't mean that God's not there. He's still there, and he's still gonna get his glory and praise through it all. So I actually, to respond to all of that, I'm actually releasing a cover of Everlasting God, which is coming out on the 26th, and it's a free download, you know, so I'm not even charging for it. I just want to put it out there so people can connect to the heart of the Lord through this time, you know. So that's just kind of my response to, you know, what's happening right now
in culture, in your field of being an artist. Have you ever felt pressure from other artists as far as staying true to your style, staying true to how you want to present your music? Have you ever felt like you needed to, I don't know, like kind of adjust to what they're doing, or you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah. I try to keep a good pulse on what's happening in the industry, especially because I'm primarily, you know, urban gospel pop, which is, you know, kind of my roots and what I grew up on. And, you know, I try to keep a good pulse on, like, CCM, you know, K-Love Air One, that type of what's happening. And, you know, my thing is I'm listening for sound. I'm listening for a certain sound to be portrayed in Christian music right now, and I feel like it hasn't happened yet. And it hasn't happened on the gospel side. It hasn't happened on the CCM side. And I feel like I need to do that. And I'm experimenting, and I'm trying to figure out what that sound is. And I'm not talking about like a pop sound. I'm talking about, like, if you listen to Justin Timberlake or Bruno Mars or you know, all of these big time artists that they're at the top of their game right now, you know, their sound is the reason why people listen to them. And so Christian music should be the same way, you know.
Creativity, that's
yeah. And so when I released Got a Feeling, that was kind of what I wanted to do with where I wanted to go with who I was, with who I am, and kind of where I feel like my music's going to take me. I always want to be like hitting people with something random, in a good way. Where like, wow, he released that, like, okay, you know. Because when I released All This Time, it was a very pop ballad song, and it was the sound of what was happening then. And it's still, I mean, it's still mainstream. It's still a commercial song. You know, it still works. But I had to realize, like, okay, all this time is all this time, and I can't do nothing like that again. It was good for that time. It was good for that season of my life. But I can't write anything to connect to that song. So I was like, okay, I'm going to sit that there, and then I'm going to pick up this over here, and that's why I released Got a Feeling. And off of Got a Feeling, I am doing the EP and the project because I feel like that was a great first single for my sound for now. And, you know, I don't ever feel the pressure of other artists because I feel like they need to be them, and I can't be them.
Yeah, speak on that. Because we got young people who feel like they have to be like somebody that they're not.
Trendy, so trendy nowadays.
You know, I heard someone say this, and it just completely stuck with me. And basically, like, let's get this for a second. The lady with the alabaster box that poured the oil on Jesus' feet, we know that story, right? So what if, as an artist, since you're trying to be like someone else, God is going to see that, and he's going to be like, what is that? Because he knows your heart. He knows who you are. And your worship is the oil that God has already given you. Mm-hmm. So if I'm giving someone else's oil to God, which is my artistry, my worship, he's going to be like, what is that? And what if the lady with the alabaster box didn't even have her own alabaster box? It was someone else's box, and she broke that open on Jesus' feet. He would have been like, what is this? You know, that's exactly what it is when someone is trying to be like someone else. It's fine to get influenced. Yeah. It's completely okay. But when you're trying to talk like someone else, when you're trying to have the same mannerisms on stage or off the stage or whatever, just be you, be genuine, and be who God's called you to be. And I promise you, God is going to reward you for being you. You know, when you're trying to be like something else or someone else, you know, it's going to work for a second, but, you know, it's all going to come to one point where you're going to have to decide, is this who I want to be? Is this going to even work? Or should I be who I need to be and who God's called me to be?
Yeah. That's really cool, man.
I just coined that you just said. Your worship is your oil that God has given you. Awesome. So I just tagged you in it on Facebook.
Okay, all right, cool.
Fast, real fast.
With your quote, being your quote.
Real fast. I didn't even know.
I love that.
Wow. Deborah Reed, everyone. Deborah Reed.
Social media at its finest right there. Please get that quick.
Speaking of that's kind of how God is with our life, though. Like, he just steps in and he guides your steps.
Right.
So can you touch on that a little bit, how he's guided your steps as far as you growing in the music industry? Because it's not like you just kind of did a concert and you stopped.
No.
Like, I'm going to keep saying it. You've been out of the States. That's pretty awesome. Especially as a local San Antonian. That's pretty awesome, man.
Yeah.
Like, touch on that a little bit.
Yeah. You know, it's growing in you are as a minister, as a artist, as a worship leader. That's the biggest hurdle you have to kind of keep jumping over, because this is, I mean, in growing up in church and seeing that, you know, all these old school preachers, they're like start becoming more and more irrelevant just because they want to stick to traditionalism, and they want to stick to what they're comfortable with. That's the biggest roadblock, I would say, is because when we as ministers or as artists start becoming irrelevant, how are we going to affect people around us the right way, intentional way, you know? And especially someone who isn't saved. I don't want to be the reason why someone says that's exactly why I don't go to church. I don't want to be that guy. I want to be the guy that shows the true love of God and says, you know, no matter what you're dealing with, God is more than enough. And if I can get that wrapped up in 3.5 minutes in a song, I feel like I'm doing the right thing. I feel like I'm growing, you know, and I'm challenging myself, and I'm challenging the generation to step up and do the same. You know, especially peers, especially, you know, other artists. We should be portraying the sound of what our nation's dealing with in our music, and I feel like that's not happening right now.
Man, that's exactly what I was going to say, is that, you know, as like the Christian community, we kind of step away from those things because we don't want to offend or something, or we don't want to basically we like to be comfortable. That's what I heard you. That was some of the things. And there's one of my favorite songs from Andy Mineo. It's called Uncomfortable. Wow, that whole album's good. And we gotta stop trying to live comfortable lives.
Right.
Like we're okay with just being in church, but we ain't okay being the church outside.
Yeah, because we're and I'm going to touch on that right now, because it goes back to what I said earlier. Proximity is different than relationship. We're okay being in a church and sitting there, but the thing is, we can't be we can't know Jesus. We need to become like Jesus. We can't just know, oh yeah, when the presence of God comes in, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to lift up my hands. That's all good. That's fine. But what I'm saying is...
But what after?
What's going to happen after? You're going to still leave the church the exact same way you came in 3 hours ago. Some churches, 3 hours ago or 4 hours ago. I'm just saying. That was I won't be petty. I'm sorry. So you're going to still leave the same way you came in. And how is that affecting our generation? How is that affecting the world? That's being worse than the world, because that is what it is to be a hypocrite, is to sit. I would not want to be around the presence of God and walk away the exact same way as if I was standing there, when I first got there. You should be different. If Jesus walked in the room right now, literally, you would never be the same. Yeah. But that's what he does every single Sunday. His presence is hopefully, in the church every single Sunday, and yet we still walk away the exact same way as when we first walked in.
Because I think it's every single Sunday. It should be every single moment.
Yeah.
It should be we need to get deeper into this. We need to go beyond an emotional feeling where the Spirit's at. The Spirit's beyond an emotional feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we got to flow off that, and if you put that in your music, that's the best thing ever. When I feel that, because I worship to all types of music. I mean, there's times when I'm literally next to a mosh pit and I'm worshiping God at a Sleeping Giant concert, and then I could be at a Lecrae concert and I'm still doing the same thing, and I feel that presence. And then I can go to Hillsong and still feel the same presence. And it's always, because it goes beyond my emotions. It's somewhere deep down in me that I don't even know how to explain it. There's no words to explain that beyond this.
It's real.
It's real. And I mean, and the cliche thing to say right now is, the message never changes, but the methods do. And if they don't, that's when things start becoming irrelevant, like I said. And we should be willing to do whatever it takes to reach those that have not seen the love of Jesus, and that can be walking in freedom and in victory. And that's what God's all about, is for you to walk in complete freedom.
That's good right there, man. You can preach a little bit, man. But
y'all get me going.
It's a matter of influence as well. And when you influence people through your lyrics, through your songs, and when you're not singing, because people have eyes, they can watch you when you're not holding a microphone.
Right.
There's a lot of responsibility with the platform that you're given. So what will you tell someone, maybe they're not into Christian music, maybe they have that, I say, disease of thinking that all Christians are bad, that we're not approachable? How would you talk to that person?
I would say,
my listeners.
I would say that person's absolutely right, because Christians have done a very bad job at being unapproachable.
They have. Because
they want to use their terminology of the teachery and the churchiosity and whatever you want to label it. I mean, and I'm in church a lot because of all different events, and I'm blessed to be part of great ministries, and I've been blessed to been in some that are not so great and have participated in different events. And it's for one, I'm just if you're gonna do a type of outreach or community event or this or that, that's for someone that does not go to church on a Sunday morning, because they typically wouldn't go, because exactly what you're saying, because they feel like the church is unapproachable. So if you're doing a community event and that person's sitting in the seat out there, don't come at them giving aggressive. Right? Say it. Aggressive. Yeah, aggressive. That's right. Don't come at them aggressive.
Shout out to Rockafellas clients.
Yeah. Yes, sir. While they in the chair right now getting edged up.
Yeah, in church.
Don't come at them aggressive of what you're doing wrong, or preaching at them,
right?
Or even worse, like not even giving them the explanation, but you're just starting to have church and doing a praise break, and they're like, what is going on right now? That's why I feel like we're unapproachable, because we don't give them the step. We just are literally going all the way in because that's what we're used to. No, that's completely wrong. If we have an opportunity or a platform, like you were saying, like the Lecrae concerts and the Minio concerts, they're doing exactly what the church should be doing.
You're right.
And that's what you were saying of it, that kind of bridges the gap of becoming unapproachable as a Christian.
Because they hurt just like we hurt. I mean, it's a universal type feeling. Like everybody's going through something, and sometimes our pain can be their medicine. But a lot of times we want to hide behind the title and not put in the work.
Right. Yeah.
And the thing is, when you're aggressive, it's a push off. It's a turn off.
A complete.
Nobody doesn't want you to be aggressive.
Right.
It's all about love, and you talked about that earlier. And love covers a multitude of sin. Love does so much, and it draws people.
Right.
And so when you love on them and not attack them and just be so churchy with them,
right?
Just be real.
It just makes a difference,
right?
And that's like where we're at. We're at Community Bible, and Pastor Ed is a touchable pastor,
right?
And he loves the people. He's just genuinely, with people, and he loves on them. And like I said, he's touchable. He's up front in your face, and it's about, what do you need? What can I do for you?
Right.
It's not about what you can do for Community Bible. It's not about what I want to see you do. It's all about the people.
Sure.
And that's important. You got to love the people. You got to come to their level, be where they are, and love them. And the Lord will do the rest of the work. Right. You're planting the seed. God will water and bring them on in, however they need to come in, and whatever needs to be changed in their lives.
Exactly.
So
one of the things I think the church does horribly is it's like what you said, like we preach. We don't even know what we're preaching about because we haven't listened to what they struggle with.
Right.
We're automatically just like, you need Jesus, which is true, but we don't know why they need Jesus because we haven't heard nothing from them.
No.
We're just like automatically like, we already have the answer for you, so shut up and take it.
That's right.
Instead of saying, we have the answer for you, here's where it is.
Right.
Yeah.
And my pastor's the same way, and I'm blessed to be actually part-time on staff as a worship leader there at Life Church, and my dad's also on staff as a youth pastor, which he's done. My dad has done youth ministry for over 26 years, which has been great for me growing up, to have a good pulse on the generation, especially with my dad and my pastor, they're genuine, they're real. What you see is what they are and who they are, and we still have altar time, and we have altar time not like for praise breaking and shouting, and I mean that happens, it happens, but things actually take place at the altar. I still strongly believe that response for someone is the biggest thing for them in their walk with Jesus, because it's not even that first time response. It's always responding to what God is saying, and I respect that we still have that time. I respect my pastor for still wanting that altar time and that response time at the end of service, because that is asking someone, what is it that you need from the Lord, and you're not just preaching at them for 45 minutes and say, okay, drop the money in the offering plate, and we're gonna keep on, we're gonna go to the next service now. No. So
and there are so many people that are looking for that altar time. My husband and I have come across people who they're like, say, particular churches that don't have those altar calls. They take people to the back. Won't name any churches, but they take them to the back, and the altar's not open, but that's like the mercy seat of the Lord. People want to go to the altar because they came in with a lot of baggage on them.
Yeah.
And they want to go to the altar because that is just a place where that's where the cross is. Mm-hmm. They want to be at Jesus' feet. They want to just lay it all at the cross. And a lot of people don't get those moments.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And because they don't get those moments, they go home the same way they came in.
Right.
Because they didn't get that moment at the altar.
Yeah.
And that is so important for them to open the altar. And I'm not going to keep harping on Community Bible, but
go ahead.
It is what it is.
Harp again.
But they open the altar every Sunday. Well, they have service on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So their altar is open during praise and worship. And there are so many people who suffer with depression, mental illness, suicide, you name it. And they're there in the services. And when that altar opens for them, mm-hmm. it just turns their whole life around, because then they get out of their seats and they go to the altar. And whatever happens between them and God at the altar, it happens. And lives are changed. They're turned around, for absolutely. The better. And they come back to their seats refreshed. So it's important to have that altar time, even if it's not for salvation. We need the altar so we can come down and pray, or someone pray over us. Because eventually salvation is going to come. If it's not there. So that is so important. That's an important place to be. Because that's where things happen.
Absolutely.
At the altar.
And two, like we all kind of, I think, agree, keeping it real. Because when it's all said and done, when you're home from church, you got Monday, you got the rest of the week to look forward to. What is that time being spent? How's it being spent? How are you living? You got to keep it real outside of church, not just in church.
Right.
Because it's easy to play church. It's an easy script.
I can do that all day.
I mean, I can do that with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
Well,
a lot of us can get Oscars.
I like that. But
it's funny.
When it really starts to get tense and real life happens, then what?
Yeah.
Because people are also looking, well, what about during the work? Like when you're at your job, how are you really treating people? How are you really acting? How's your attitude? It's a full-time job, but...
Yeah, I mean, let me hit on that for a second. Mm-hmm. I believe that the anointing on a man of God or a woman of God's life is not measured by their platform ministry. Mm-hmm. It's measured by who they are off the platform, how they respond to their wife, their daughter, their husband, their family. That's how you measure a man or a woman's character and integrity. You don't measure them by their anointing, because the anointing is only there. It only comes to break chains and to break yokes and to free people of what they're dealing with. That's the only reason why the anointing comes in a service. Not because a man of God is, well, you're just anointed. Well, good, I'm glad he's anointed, but does he have character and does he have integrity?
Right.
And that's what I try to do and portray off the platform. If how I treat someone in a merchandise line at my booth is how I should be measured. If I'm just a jerk of like, go ahead and buy a shirt, buy a hat, hurry up, I need that money to fly back home.
2 minutes.
which I do need that money, but
that's not the focal point.
That's not the refocus point.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, please buy merchandise from artists because it helps them a lot.
Yes. Please do that.
Man, it's crazy how time flies. We're 4 minutes out, so let's take this time kind of talk about your upcoming tour that you're about to get into.
Absolutely.
Give some details on that.
Yeah. So I just did a year-long tour. It's going to be coming to a close next month, which is been on the Devoted tour. And I'll be kicking off another tour called The Difference in November of this year, which will be another year-long tour. And on that tour, I'll be doing a lot of fly dates again, radio stops. I'll be going to the Stellar Awards in March. I'll be out there.
Nice.
I'll be posting the dates for that here soon. And I have several shows during the Stellar Awards week, so I'll be out there performing. I did perform last year for the Midnight Bowling I was out there on Thursday night.
I saw that on Facebook.
Yeah, and it was cool, man. They were lit.
Yeah, I saw
Vegas was lit, and it's gonna be back in Vegas this year, which is awesome. So I actually have several performances this go around, and we're super stoked about it.
Drop your website and social media real quick.
Yeah, so you can check out my website. It's www.bwattsmusic.com, and all my social media is at bwattsmusic.
And lastly, but not any least by any means, if you could encourage someone who might listen to this, what's some of the last words you tell them, just to give them that encouragement, chase their dreams, get refocused, go all out?
Yeah. Like I always say, keep it moving. No matter what no's and how many no's and what it looks like, if you have everything against you in your life, don't let that stop you. Be who God has called you to be, chase your dream, and make your dream a reality. And like I said earlier, nobody can pull away the work of your own hands. You can be greatness, and God has called you to be greatness and be first and not last, and that's what the Bible says. So become that and walk in that.
Man, we
awesome.
Definitely appreciate you coming by, taking time out of your busy schedule. I want to give a big shout out to Rockafellas Barber Shop. Rico Rodriguez, you want a haircut by him, Sam, or T? Man, y'all come down here, 1733 Babcock Road. That's San Antonio, Texas. Make sure you check them out. Once again, another big plug. Rico Rodriguez, Rockafellas Barber Shop is going down. It's I Am Refocused.
Yeah,
thank you to Sam.
Walk-ins are always welcome.
Oh, yeah. Give you a plug real quick, man.
Check me out on Instagram, sam.el.barber, and Samuel Sandoval on Facebook.
And like I said, guys, we appreciate you all listening to this podcast. I want to thank Miss Deborah too, keeping me in line, keeping me in check, out of trouble.
Spike.
You guys and ladies have a great day. Appreciate you all. Peace out.